It's my iPad. What do I need to do to stop that from happening? Okay, everybody calm down. That's not a fire. We're okay. The internet is disrupting the evening, but I'm going to fix it right now because I'm magical and technological. I turn the network off, so bye-bye. Bye-bye, network. Okay. Wow. How do we feel? We don't feel good. Okay, well, I'm going to go like this, and the sum total of what I'm about to tell you is all in this machine. So it's really great. And this is what a professional does. They dance around the tech. They dance on the tech. Welcome to the Opportunity Agenda's 2014 Creative Change Awards. Thank you so much for being here. So far, so good. We are thrilled to be here, and when we were planning this event, the coolest thing, well, not the coolest thing, but one of the coolest things about what the Opportunity Agenda does is our work can be presented to you. And you can see our work. It's not like, you know, the Heart Association where you couldn't, hey, we're going to have an open heart surgery right here. Show you what we do, raise a little money. We bring the creative community and activists together so that we can make change through language and music and heart and soul and humor in a way that affects people that just the facts simply can't. And we're able to do that tonight in a magnificent way by honoring Laverne Cox from Orange is the New Black. And talking about her project, which she will get into in depth. It was a really fun event to plan, and I just want to give a shout out to my steering committee. I am one of the co-chairs. Did I say my name? I'm Lizz Winstead. I'm one of the co-chairs of this event. I'm on the steering committee of the Opportunity Agenda, and I'm a comedian and a loudmouth, and I raise a lot of money for reproductive health care. So that's my oeuvre is below the waist. It's a good oeuvre. You should join me in it. But Amy Redford, who is here tonight, one of my co-chairs. Wave, Amy. Great. Hi, Amy. Sarah Stewart. And the woman who worked tirelessly putting this all together, where are you? Jessica Wells, where are you? Jess? Jess, you did this. You were awesome. We also have people streaming on the interwebs. So hi, streaming people. Welcome. We're excited. You're going to be learning about the Opportunity Agenda and about creative change. For the first time, you're going to see what we do, which we're very excited about. If you have your phones out and you are tweeters, we have a hashtag. We'd love for you to tweet about anything you see tonight to let people know what we're doing. And the hashtag is CeCe Gala 2014. So put that out there, do that, and it's awesome. So how many of you are here and you are just finding out about who we are for the first time? Applause, so I can kind of hear you. Amazing, thank you. How many of you are familiar with our work? Yes. How many of you have participated in one of the amazing creative change events? Yes, okay. We're going to be talking about all of it. I'm thrilled you're all here. There's so much that we do that I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but we pride ourselves in being able to do gatherings that represent real life, bringing real life activists and artists together so that the activists can help the artists and the artists can help the activists. Helping them learn media training, helping them be better advocates for their organizations, helping them get on TV. We have annually, we put through media training around 750 people on average a year. And then we get them, and then we get them on MSNBC. And then the part that I love the most and the part why I am so excited that we're honoring Laverne tonight is, for me in activism, it is so crucial for the people whose stories need to be told to be the ones telling their stories. So often we hear about people. So often the people we need to be caring about aren't the people who are their own messengers, because we haven't honored them, given them the skills, taken the time, seen who they are. And that is one of the things that I love so much about the Opportunity Agenda, is that that is who we are and what we do. You know, we talk about feminism. What does that mean? I want to hear from feminists of color. I want their story to be as important as every other story. When we talk about feminism in general, I'm a cis woman. I want to hear from trans women. I want to hear from trans men. We talk about reproductive health care. I want to hear from everybody who gets reproductive health care. And I want people to talk about it in a way that's inclusive and matters. And that is the point. We no longer want to default to the narrative that's been the default all the time. And the Opportunity Agenda works tirelessly to switch what the default is, so that the default is humanity. And the default is the person who needs their story told is the person who will tell the story. So thank you for coming, and we're really excited to have that be what we do. And the other thing that is amazing in this new landscape and why it's crucial is, as we were working in social media and as the network and the internet becomes the gigantic space where we get information, that becomes the place where when you bring new ideas, when you challenge the norms, that people start, you know, basically shitting on you constantly. Trolls are inevitable. It's awful. And if you are in a space that's uncomfortable for anybody, it's really, really hard. I talk about reproductive justice all the time on the internet. I actually talk about things that you think were settled, like science, and shouldn't be a controversial topic, yet very controversial, turns out. I'll tell you a true story, because this is what happens when you start voicing an opinion about, oh, that science might be real. So I was watching, as I'm sure many of you did, Bill Nye did a debate with the guy who runs the Creation Museum. There's a museum for creationism in Kentucky, and somebody tweeted, "It's so refreshing to have somebody finally prove that the earth is 6,000 years old." I just thought I would be helpful and correct the record. So I tweeted back, well, that's awkward because fire was invented 10,000 years ago. They tweeted back at me, whore. And after doing comedy 30 years, I wasn't really offended. I was just kind of annoyed because, and so I tweeted back, well, I might be a whore, but you're still wrong. But it's very, very, and so when you become an advocate, an activist, a writer of social media, the one thing that's very interesting is the way that people try to terrorize you to stop your voice from being heard. That's the point of the story. And so when you say, I'm thrilled that the Affordable Care Act is now going to cover birth control, and somebody tweets back, why should I have to pay for your birth control? You know, that's sort of, to me, oh, right, that is what really separates me from extremists, is that they don't want to pay for my birth control, and I would pay any amount for theirs. Turns out. But I feel like we are changing dramatically, and today, Pennsylvania became the 19th state. Yes, to say marriage equality is for us, which is really exciting. And I'm going to close up my little comedy portion and move on with a story that I have that it's a place that I hope that America is going. I'm from Minnesota originally, born and raised. I know, thank you. All right, great. How are you? Terrific. And Minnesota, a year and a half ago, had a ballot initiative that said we are a constitutional amendment for people to vote on to make marriage between one man and one woman. And it was defeated. And 6 months later, marriage equality exists in Minnesota. So I went home to Minnesota to door knock, to talk to people about marriage equality and why happy, healthy people in relationships are good for Minnesota. So I'm in a neighborhood that's one of those kind of middle-income neighborhoods that block to block you could get a beer-drinking guy who's angry at the door, or you could get some really cool person. It was a crapshoot. So I knock on the door, and a woman says, "Oh, hi, come on in." And so I walk in, and she goes, "Oh, why are you here?" And I was like, "Well, maybe you should have asked me before you let me in, but okay, here I am." And I said, "I'm here to talk to you about Amendment 2. Do you know about that?" And she goes, "Oh, I do." And I said, "Well, how do you feel?" And she goes, "Well, I'm just real torn." And I said, "Well, is there anything that I can talk to you about or talk to you about how you feel about it?" And she goes, "No, here's the thing. I'm not sure I'm okay with two guys getting married, but I don't want to be a jerk about it." And I thought, there's always going to be people on the earth who do not see the joy of marriage equality. But if the best place we could get was, then just don't be a jerk about it. I'm shooting for that and then hoping to get the stars. So that is what I am hoping. Thank you. And with that, I've told you a little bit about what we do in the sort of bigger picture of the opportunity agenda, but I'm going to bring up the man who steers our ship and guides us every day, the executive director whose vision, he works tirelessly to make sure that voices that matter are heard, that voices that matter are heard with dignity, with quality, with power. And I'm so thrilled to introduce to you the executive director of the Opportunity Agenda, Mr. Alan Jenkins.
Going old school. How are y'all feeling? Good, good. Well, thank you so much, Liz. I'm Alan Jenkins. I'm Executive Director of the Opportunity Agenda. I want to welcome you again to our 2014 Creative Change Awards. We're so happy to see you here. And I want to also shout out to our online folks who are watching virtually through our live stream. For those of you just getting to know us, I want to say just a little bit about the organization. I co-founded the Opportunity Agenda about 8 years ago. The organization is founded not on any one issue or any one constituency, but on ideals. We started with the ideal of opportunity, the notion that everyone deserves a fair chance to achieve his or her full potential. And it seemed to us that realizing full and equal opportunity was not just about national conditions, but also about national values, about economic security and mobility, about a voice in decisions that affect us, about equal treatment, and community, the idea that we're all in it together and that we share responsibility for each other and the common good. And the chance to start over after missteps or misfortune, what many Americans call redemption. And it seemed further to us that realizing those values was not just a good idea, but part of our human rights, part of the rights that we all hold simply by virtue of our humanity. And so studying the question, and some of you who helped us study it are here in the room, it really seemed to us that the biggest barriers to expanding opportunity, not so much a lack of research or facts or advocacy, but a failure of national will. A disconnect between the highest values that our nation holds and public support for the kind of fundamental change that's needed to get us there. And so the mission of the Opportunity Agenda is building the national will to expand opportunity. Our work focuses on communications and culture and connection. So we use media and advocacy to move hearts and minds and policy. We tap the power of arts and culture. We work with diverse voices for opportunity and human rights in America. And as Liz said, many people whose voices would otherwise never be heard, and yet who are most profoundly affected by the denial of opportunity and tend to have the best ideas on what to do about it. So over the last year, as Liz mentioned, we trained about 750 dynamic, diverse social justice advocates around the country in media and engagement, in advocacy, we're working with young dreamers who are struggling and organizing and pushing to become a part of the nation that they love for themselves and their families and to fully participate. We're working with community organizers who are pushing back against banks that are foreclosing on communities after years and years of predatory lending. And we're working with some brilliant thinkers, diverse experts who have ideas, common sense ideas that work on how we can expand opportunity for everyone in our country. At the same time, we're growing a large, diverse network of artists and creatives and entertainers because no social movement in our nation's history, and maybe in the world's history, has succeeded without the power of arts and culture and without the leadership of artists. And that, in our view, has been a hugely important resource and source of leadership and brain power and persuasion that we have not adequately been tapping, at least in recent years. Our creative family includes people like comedian Negin Farsad, who has created the documentary film The Muslims Are Coming, in which she brought a team of Muslim stand-up comedians to the Deep South. And, you know, hilarity ensued, hilarity and racism ensued. But it's a vehicle for educating all of us about Islamophobia and inclusion and, you know, how not to be a jerk. How no matter our preconceptions about the Deep South, that there are always people who have been welcoming, who have always been welcoming, and who are often the pathways to creating a more welcoming society. And Negin's work is absolutely phenomenal. Our family includes artists like Jasiri X, who's here with us, that is going to be performing, who's been rapping for years about police brutality and police shootings, about inequality, and my favorite, what if the Tea Party was black? Which, if you haven't seen the video, highly, highly recommend. Jasiri, though, is also a teacher and an organizer and an activist and a leader, really a remarkable person. Together, we're telling the opportunity story. We're framing the debate on issues that matter. And so just in January, some of you may have heard the President of the United States in his State of the Union address pick up our framing and message, lift up our top issue priorities, and literally call for an opportunity agenda. So now we're hoping he doesn't screw it up. But the important thing is a lot of work went into moving this White House, which is not always known for its courage on some of these issues, to take a stand on some of the most important issues facing us, and to tell that story in a way that will be compelling for lots and lots of people who perhaps haven't viewed themselves as directly engaged. So we're going to make sure that it's worth the effort. This year, we're turning our attention particularly to the challenge of creating a criminal justice system that's rooted in keeping us safe and in equal justice, and not in bias and the idea of mass incarceration. And that's a big challenge, but we actually think that it's one that we can win. We can't be an opportunity society when in a city like New York could conduct more strip searches of young men of color than there are young men of color in New York City, which means, of course, that some young men were stopped over and over and over again. Thankfully, that policy has been scrapped, and we're starting to see some improvements, but there's lots and lots more work to be done, both here in New York and around the country. We can't be an opportunity society when 500,000 of our fellow Americans are languishing in prison and jail on violations of drug laws. In many instances, possession of drugs that are no longer unlawful in many states in our country. It's a tremendous wasted opportunity, wasted resource, and it's disconnected from the values that should drive our system. And we can't be an opportunity society when transgender people are both more likely to be victims of violence and more likely to be the ones arrested and incarcerated. It's absolutely unacceptable. So now that you're totally depressed, let me tell you, and I'm going to go Marco Rubio on you for a second here. Had to be done, sorry. Now that you're thoroughly depressed, I can tell you the good news, which is that our research, our experience make clear that Americans are more open to a transformative change in our criminal justice system than has been the case in half a century. And it cuts across demographics. Evangelical Christians, business leaders, progressives, wide range of folks who now believe that we have gone in the wrong direction and that we need to return to the values of public safety and equal protection under the laws and rehabilitation and redemption. We have a tremendous opportunity. And it's up to us. It's up to us to communicate, to convey a new vision for what that system should be. And we're on it. So just in a few weeks, we're going to be hosting our annual Communications Institute, which is an intensive 4-day media training, on-camera training, asking tough questions, radio, online, and we're focusing that institute this year on criminal justice reform and bringing in folks from around the country. And after that, we will be placing them in the media. So they will be coming to a television and a newspaper and maybe a mobile phone, smartphone near you. So stay tuned for that. But it's the beginning of a very important process for us. And our Creative Change Retreat of artists and entertainers in Sundance this year is also going to bring together a significant number of creatives who are focused on criminal justice reform. This is the right time to take on this issue. I'm very, very pleased that we're able to do it now. As many of you know, have been connected to the organization for a long time. It's something that we have aspired to do for many years, and now I think we're in the position to do it. Turning briefly to tonight's event, I want to take a minute and just thank some of the people who made tonight possible. I made it as abbreviated as I could and still make sure that folks get a shout out. So first, as always, I want to thank the co-founders of the Opportunity Agenda. Brian Smedley, who I think is in the house somewhere, and Bill Lan Lee and Phoebe Eng. We are 8 years old now, but many of the decisions, the wisdom from Bill and Phoebe and Brian are very much in play today in the way in which we do our work. I want to again thank our event co-chairs, Amy Redford and Sarah Stewart and Lizz Winstead. Liz is doing at least triple duty today. I want to thank our special guests, Jasiri X and CeCe McDonald and Alicia Williams. And let me say, I'm going off script for a second here, but CeCe and I did HuffPost Live today. And by saying we did, what I mean is they spoke to CeCe for 28 minutes and me for 2. And I would have made the same choice, honestly. But she was fabulous in telling her story, but also all of our story. She's concerned about violence and criminal justice, human rights violations affecting trans women, but also about the problems of the criminal justice system affecting all of us. Her voice was one about the human rights that we all share, and she just did a fabulous job. It was fantastic to be with her, even though I didn't get to say anything. Okay, our host committee members, big thank you. Brought so many of you here tonight to be with us. I want to thank our long-standing event sponsors, Freshfields, Bruckhaus, Derringer, and Schulte, Roth, and Zabel. They're in the house. They're all at the bar, apparently. Good to see you. I want to thank our amazing staff at the Opportunity Agenda. So sometimes the opportunity that we're fighting for is simply the opportunity to be your own true self, free of discrimination, free of violence, free of incarceration, free of the ignorance that so often holds our country back. And so given our mission, it should be no surprise that we wanted to honor Laverne Cox, or really more accurately, that we hoped she would honor us by accepting the Creative Change Award this year. You can bring it. First, Orange is the New Black is awesome. And Laverne is awesome in it. I would dare say she's the awesomest thing in Orange is the New Black. And by her talent, her dignity, her activism, her leadership, Laverne is moving hearts and minds, and I have no doubt informing policy development single-handedly. She's making us a better nation, one Netflix download at a time. So thank you so much, Laverne, for being with us. And finally, thanks to all of you for being here. I hope you'll, first of all, thank you for buying tickets and being here. And I hope you'll consider supporting us going forward. I do have to say that, if you are satisfied with the mission of America that pundits and politicians are selling these days, we're probably not for you. You probably will not want to support us. If you're satisfied that our nation's diverse communities are being adequately portrayed in the media in a dignified and equal way, then you may want to go somewhere else. If you think that our criminal justice system is pretty much the best it's going to be, that the American dream has basically arrived, we're all post-racial now, we're probably not going to have a love connection with the opportunity agenda. But tell me, are you satisfied? No. Are you satisfied? No. Okay, so neither are we. So I hope you will choose to support us going forward. I hope you will stay connected and engaged with the opportunity agenda. Stay in touch with what we're doing. Follow us in social media, because we have some very, very big things planned. And I think now is the time for us to work together and change the country. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Alan. Miss Laverne. Laverne Cox. Activist, role model, actor. When we were talking about how to choose and who to choose to honor this year, a person that came to mind was Laverne. And to take it to the sort of next level of how it comes together, so I am from Minnesota, and Laverne is somebody who I loved on Orange is the New Black. And then I started following her on Twitter. And then I started hearing about the horrible injustice of a trans woman in my state. And then, as I was hearing this news from Minnesota, it was like all converged at once. And then I found out that Laverne was making this documentary about this woman, CeCe McDonald. And I was like, first of all, I hope my state isn't messing up. Oh my God, my state is messing up. And then this woman who has been on a rise that is epic with her career, who didn't stop to say, oh good, I got mine, who has been aware and made it a point to say, I live in the world, and the world that I live in is not safe for everyone, and until it is, I'm gonna keep fighting. I love that. I love that about you. I love that a woman from the state that I am from is having her story told. I love that a criminal justice system that has failed epically is being talked about and exposed, and I love that the two women who are telling that story are telling it themselves here tonight. And I feel really honored and thrilled, and thank you so much for your work and your tireless support and your activism, because I know that we live in a world where it's scary and nobody wants you to tell your story, and people don't want you to be happy, and God damn it, we're gonna create a world where that's the case. No more. No more. We're here to support you. And one of the reasons that I'm so happy about having this conversation here tonight is that it's a conversation that's happening in a space that is progressive and open to many things, and a lot of people are going to be hearing about it for the first time, who think that they are really well informed, and they're going to be hearing from the people who it matters to the most. So I'm so excited to be honoring a woman who has gotten her torch and is carrying it constantly. So Laverne, please come to the stage, and thank you so much. Hoist it up, sister.
Where's my light? There is my light.
There's your light. All right, try this one more time so you get the thing.
Okay.
Alan, come on also.
Make some noise for Alan.
Come on now. Awesome. I think we have, and then you should get in here, Alan.
Photo ops. Yes.
All right. I'm going to take this now, and you're going to speak into the microphone.
Okay, I don't know how to do that.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, I was kidding. Thank you so much, Lizz Winstead. Can we make some noise for Lizz Winstead? Oh, you guys look great tonight. Oh my God, you look so great out there. Can we make some noise for Alan and for the Opportunity Agenda? I am deeply honored to accept this award. And as I sat in that chair listening to Liz talk, I got very emotional because I was sitting next to CeCe. And I'm very busy these days. I'm exhausted, to be perfectly honest. And I'm trying, and stuff is really serious in the world, particularly for girls like us, for girls like CeCe and me. And it's life or death. It's life or death. And as I was sitting there, I was thinking how so often for girls like CeCe and me, we are fighting for our lives just to walk down the street with a sense of dignity. I mean, CeCe was walking to the grocery store, you know, and you'll see in the trailer for Free CeCe that her story is really close to me because very easily I could have been CeCe. I don't want to say a lot in this moment, but I do want to tell you a little bit about why I wanted to tell CeCe's story. The thing is, it's not even me really telling CeCe's story. It's giving her a platform to tell her story herself, because she's the best person to do that, and she is a survivor. And can we make some noise for CeCe right now? I love you, CeCe. You know, so often we don't have, a lot of people in our culture don't have opportunities. It's kind of a miracle that a Black transgender woman is standing before you accepting this award, who is on a popular TV show living out her dreams. And we know that so many people in this country do not get to live out their dreams. And I love that the Opportunity Agenda is really about that, about everyone having access to that dream. Now, in the documentary Free CeCe, we talk about CeCe's story and the criminal justice system and mass incarceration, but we are also looking critically at a culture of violence against trans women. Disproportionately, trans women of color face violence in this country. You'll see some of the statistics, but I'll tell you a few. In 2012, over 53% of all LGBTQ homicides were trans women. Over 73% were people of color, right? So there's something going on. There's something going on with the intersections of race, class, and gender that disproportionately affects the lives of girls like CeCe and me. And if we are serious about everyone having opportunities in this country, we have to look at violence against trans women. Are we ready to roll the trailer for Free CeCe? Are we ready? Let's take a look. We are about to fly to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and tomorrow I get to interview CeCe McDonald. I'm really emotional about this project that we're about to embark on. I've been wanting to meet and talk to CeCe McDonald for over a year and a half. CeCe is just someone I've thought about really every day that I've showed up on set to film Orange is the New Black.
This is an emergency.
Yeah, well, we don't see it that way.
I thought about CeCe and so many women like her.
I'd like to report an emergency.
trans women who are serving in men's prisons all across the country. CeCe's case, to me, encapsulates so many of the harsh injustices that trans women of color face in this country. CeCe was just walking down the street with a group of her friends, minding her own business.
Something about that day just was like not sitting right with me.
She was met with harassment.
I just started hearing faggots and you niggers and this and that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, please, let's just please go.
And this story touches me so much because I have been CeCe. I have been walking down the street, just minding my own business.
People were like driving in the street, like hopping out of their cars and stuff and like challenging us.
And so often when trans women are attacked in these situations, they don't survive.
I just feel the blood all over my face, and I look down, I see blood all over my clothes, I see blood all over my hands. I just remember like looking up and seeing Dean and him having this like the most evilest, it was just so scary. And I'm walking backwards. I never once stopped. He's like, angry man, like jogging towards me, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
But CeCe did survive, and her gift for survival is a prison sentence when she was just defending herself.
47-year-old Dean Schmitz was stabbed during a fight shortly after midnight. Police say a group of people were fighting in the 2900 block of 27th Avenue South. When officers arrived, they found a man lying on the street with a stab wound. He died at the scene, and it sounds like maybe they've made an arrest already.
Yeah, they have arrested 23-year-old Chesney McDonald. He now faces murder charges.
They demonized me in the sense of words. They kind of just made it seem like I was on the rampage. I was just attacking people. Nobody was really trying to stand up for us. People were basically lying for these people, you know what I'm saying? Like, we were, you know, the angry black people who were, you know, looking to cause trouble.
And CeCe was arrested on the spot and not allowed a self-defense claim by the district attorney. Black bodies, whether they're trans or not, are assumed to be criminal. I got a letter from CeCe in the mail. And that day I got a letter from CeCe, Ilan Nettles was pronounced dead in New York City. And Ilan Nettles 5 days earlier had been beaten into a coma in Harlem just for walking down the street like CeCe was, and like so many trans women just walk down the street as themselves. The letter I got from CeCe, she congratulated me on Orange is the New Black. And she talked about her desires to want to act when she was younger. And there was so much hope in that letter. And I thought, why me? Why do I get to be the one living my dreams when so many of my sisters don't? So this is a big deal for me. I can't wait to meet CeCe and give her a big hug and hear from her what she wants to say to the world about who she is and about her story.
Final boarding call for passenger Ayers and passenger Cox.
Okay. I also have to give a shout out to our brilliant director, Jack Garris, who wasn't able to be here tonight. Jack is a warrior and is working her ass off to see this project come to life. So salute to Jack tonight.
I also promised Jack that I would remind people to check out freececdocumentary.net so that you can all figure out how you can support this amazing film that I'm definitely very excited to see. For those of you who don't know, my name is Alicia Williams. I can't see, but thank you. I am a staff attorney and the director of prisoner justice initiatives at the Sylvia Rivera Law Project. SRLP is an organization here in New York City that works with low-income people and people of color who identify as transgender, gender nonconforming, and intersex. We provide free legal services and lead community organized campaigns to effectuate policy changes here in New York City. I'm very, very excited to be here today with Laverne and CeCe to moderate this discussion. And I want to make sure that we are incorporating as many voices as possible, including everyone in this room and all of you who are live streaming this online. Please be sure to tweet questions, and I'll try to get to them here on my little phone. Tweet them to @OppAgenda, that's OPP Agenda, and make sure you use the hashtag CeCeAwards14. Now, as I thank everyone in this room and who's live streaming online, I realize we're trying to reach a very large audience today. And keeping that in mind, I kind of want to start this discussion very basic and just framing the issues. We saw the statistics about who's disproportionately affected by our criminal legal system. It's predominantly people of color, poor people, trans people. So for people who do not identify as being a part of any of those communities, why should they care about the issues raised in this film?
Well, I just want to say that no matter what one person's issue is, at the end of the day, that we're all affected by it. So like Alan was saying, when I talked about the criminal justice system, it was easy for me to sensationalize my own story by saying, oh yes, I was a trans woman in prison. But then even while I was in prison, I sat back and realized that there were people in there facing 20 years just for having pot on them. You know what I'm saying? And I was blessed to be able to get out. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't just bad for me, it was bad for all of us. So think about how that affects, that one person's and that group of people in that marginalized categories, family or friends, how it affects our community. Where are these resources being deposited, and how can we find alternatives to, change that? It does affect us. Probably not the rich white people, but yeah, it affects us. At the end of the day, it affects us. You know what I'm saying? It affects our communities. It affects the way that we try to progress in society. You know what I'm saying? Just because one person might be, impoverished, it affects a middle class person, and the middle class person might affect the, higher class people. We're all affected by whatever issue is going on. Yes, it might be a trans issue, but at the end of the day, when trans people are being targeted and criminalized and put into prisons, that's taken away from other people's tax money. That money could be resourced into schools and educating trans women and giving them the power to be successful in this, this country.
It's so often quoted, but Dr. King told us that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I think people should care, because the reality is that when trans bodies are policed and criminalized, it creates a world where no one can really have space to be in a gender self-determining place, right? So that this is a product of a system that is policing everybody's gender. So that when trans women in Jackson Heights here in New York City are walking down the street and are profiled as sex workers, or like Monica Jones was in Phoenix, Arizona, and arrested on the charge of manifesting prostitution, which, do we know about this? If Monica's story is ridiculous. She is an amazing woman, but the fact that she was walking, they have a law that if you're walking down the street in a certain neighborhood as a person of color, basically a woman of color, you can be arrested for prostitution. It's called manifesting prostitution. It's basically a profiling law. That is the environment that a lot of us are living in, right? And that affects everybody. It affects everybody.
Thank you, and I definitely love that you mentioned Monica Jones. I thought it was interesting. If I understood Liz's story earlier correctly, I think she was saying that she lives in Minneapolis and she didn't know CeCe's story until she was following Laverne on Twitter or something, and then that's how she learned about what was going on in her state. And oftentimes I find when I'm out doing trainings and speaking about cases like Elon Nettles, who was right here in Harlem, people in New York don't know her story. So my question is, considering the Opportunity Agenda's mission to use art and media to effectuate change, how do we get the stories of Elon and CeCe and Monica Jones? How do we get those stories and voices out into the mainstream media?
Well, we talk about them, and I'm doing what I can. I try to talk about Elon's story as much as possible, and I try to talk about Monica's story as much as I can. And each and every one of you can go out and tweet about it and write blogs about it and approach journalists and say, you should be writing and covering these stories, right? So each and every one of us can have a voice and encourage other people to speak out as well.
I was going to say there definitely has to be this willingness to have these open adult conversations about issues that affect LGBTQIA communities, especially trans women. You know, it's been so long that we've been in the shadows that, you know, it seems like it's natural in our country to not even acknowledge a trans woman as a human. You know, let alone a woman, but as a human. So it's like we have to sit down and have these conversations because, you know, without that, we can't progress. We can't figure out what the solution is until we acknowledge that it exists to begin with.
Yeah. I also want to add, as a producer, as an actress, that it's important to in our documentaries, in our television shows, in our films, to write these stories as well. I am so blessed to be on a show, Orange Is the New Black, that tells the diverse stories of a large group of women whose stories are often not told, whose lives are treated as if they don't matter often. So there are so many stories out there that we don't know about, and that I love that I get to work in a business where I can, you know, tell some of those stories, right? And it's really just about telling the tapestry of and the diversity of who we are as Americans and as human beings and as people. And so that diversity is about you know, telling everybody's story.
We saw in the trailer that CeCe wrote a letter to Laverne while you were incarcerated, congratulating her on her role in Orange Is the New Black. Someone was asking, like, how did you find out about Laverne's role and what inspired you to write her?
Well, initially, Laverne was going to come and do an interview with me when you were, was it In the Life, right?
Yes.
So that kind of fell through because In the Life lost funding, right? And so, you know, I heard through the grapevine, of course, that Laverne had got this role and that, you know, she was going to be this big TV star. And I was just like, really, you know, no, seriously, I was like really like in awe that a trans woman is getting this opportunity to shine and to be put in a more positive light, because usually roles of trans women are filled by cis men, and also roles that are portrayed by trans women are usually sex workers or drug addicts. So to know the story behind Sophia and what she went through, and knowing that, that sounds so familiar. I've never been to prison for that reason, but to know that this beautiful, strong woman that I look up to finally got her chance in life, and now you're going on your second season, so I know it's the shiznit. You know what I'm saying? When I sat in that cell, like nothing, I can do nothing but smile. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that me being in that prison didn't go in vain. I know that one of my sisters, you know, progressed in life, and now, you know, Laverne is now this big star. You know what I'm saying? And I look up to her as my big sister, my possibility model. You know, that's what she taught me. And so, like, I really was feeling blessed for her. You know, I felt that we are starting to get acknowledged as people, as actresses, as engineers, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're more than just these stereotypes that have been placed upon us. You know, we are intelligent, we're smart, we're beautiful, we're talented. And I'm glad that someone finally got to see that, and I just wanted to write her and let her know that, you know, I've always been interested in theater, and I'm so proud that you, as a trans woman, got that opportunity, because we never, ever have that opportunity. Like I said, most roles that are trans-related are played by either a cis man or a cis woman.
Now I want to follow that, Laverne, with asking you what general feedback have you been getting from people in the trans community and also people outside of that community who weren't aware of transgender issues at all before they watched Orange is the New Black?
I'm sorry, I'm really emotional about what CeCe just said. Oh my gosh. It's been amazing. I've been very blessed. I've been traveling the country. I feel like I've been on a tour, actually. And I've gotten to speak to students all over the country and Canada and telling them my story. And they come out often because they're fans of Orange is the New Black. And what's really heartening to me is folks, cisgender people, non-trans people who don't, for those of you who don't know the term cis, anyone who's non-trans, you probably know cis in this crowd. For cis people who have said that they have never thought of even connecting with someone who is transgender, and there's something about the way Sophia's story is written that they are connecting and feeling empathy for this character. And for trans folks who I've met who've been able to say, you know, that now when I tell people, my family or my friends about my identity, they have a point of reference, right? And I think that is the power of having an actual trans person play these roles, right? So that people are not just connecting to this fictional trans character, but they're connecting to an actual trans person playing the character. And so all of a sudden, unexpectedly, they're empathizing with an actual trans woman. And I think when we connect with people as people, all of our misconceptions about people who are different from us melt away. So I think that's the power of media, and I'm really blessed to be a vessel for all of that.
And yes. I definitely want to echo something that Liz said earlier when she was introducing Laverne, and she was talking about how amazing it is that Laverne not only got this role, but is taking her opportunity in the spotlight to share stories like CeCe's and Monica's and Elon's. I can say as someone who, when I say does this work, I work with trans people who are incarcerated. And I know there were a lot of people who, when Orange is the New Black came out, we saw the billboards, and it had, you know, this white lady looking really afraid and uncomfortable, and then all these people of color who just look real relaxed and happy they were in prison. So people like myself, we were we were just very cynical about what this show was actually going to portray as far as the realities for trans people in prison. And no, it's not 100% reflective of the issues, considering that most of the trans women that I work with are incarcerated in men's facilities, and they don't have access to good jobs. They can't do their hair. They can't groom in a way that allows them to reflect their gender identity. But again, because Laverne is such an amazing activist and just human being, she doesn't just accept that she made it on this television show. She comes out and she tells these stories, and it's just been an amazing ride to watch and to meet you on several occasions and still like blush and get flustered. Yeah, so I just wanted to say thank you for doing all of that work.
Thank you.
And I also want to take this opportunity to recognize other people, trans artists and activists that y'all may know and want to give a shout out to. So basically, I just want to ask, what other artists and activists influence you and inspire you to keep doing this?
Oh gosh, so many people. Do you want to start, CeCe?
I can say a close friend of mine, Andrea Jenkins, poet and author. Carmen Carrera, hot model. You know, she speaks out about issues around trans related issues. I don't know.
Janet
Oh,
Mock.
Janet, of course.
Janet Mock, we love Janet Mock,
yeah.
and she, you know, the great thing about Janet has done such, just on a personal level. I mean, she's a friend of mine. She's my sister, but just on a personal level, she has really inspired me to connect with the community in a different way. And I think I've had issues throughout my life connecting, right? Like feeling, and a lot of it for me has been feeling like I deserve to have a connection, right? When I think when we, I'm a big Brene Brown fan, and in a lot of Brene Brown's work, she talks about people, she has this whole thing about wholehearted living. She's a shame researcher. And she says that people who live wholehearted lives feel like they deserve to live wholehearted lives. So I've often not felt that I deserve to have connections, and definitely don't feel like I deserve to have connections with my sisters. And Janet Mock has been this great possibility model, this great example for me around connection. So she's been huge for me, just as a friend, and watching her navigate really complicated spaces. Gosh, I'm a Bell Hooks fan. I love Cornel West. You know, these are people who I look to sort of keep me focused on the fact that it's bigger than any. Sometimes I feel in this culture particularly, and I love social media, but I think in this culture sometimes we get obsessed with, like, you know, attacking each other, when it's really systems, right? It's really a system that we're existing under that needs to be attacked and that needs to be overhauled. And so those thinkers remind me that these things are systemic, which is important.
I also want to give a big shout out to Leslie Feinberg. Z was very involved with my case during the time I was going through trial, even flew to Minnesota and visited me there. So that person is a big influence in my life, and even though they're not here, I'm hoping that, you know, they're doing well, and, you know, that all my love is with that person right now.
Definitely. We're not getting a lot of questions coming in on Twitter, and I know we only have 5 minutes left. I want to see some hands shortly. If you have any questions in this room, I'll try to get to you. CeCe, you were just talking about the role that Leslie played in your case. And just speaking about your period of incarceration, what art and activism really inspired you and helped you get through that period?
Well, a girl can never go wrong with a good Vogue magazine. You know, not only because of, you know, is Vogue, but if anybody knows my history, my backstory, I'm really involved with apparel technologies and the art making of clothes. That's, you know, some people don't see it as an art, but it's an art to me. And I got influenced and stay uplifted by looking at the construction of garments and looking at headpieces and how someone was wearing their hair, because I knew that I couldn't reflect that where I was, so I internalized that and embodied it through these magazines. I did lots of reading. If anybody have donated a book, thank you, because it went to good use. And I also, you know, I wrote on my blog, which I need to get back to at some point in my life. I dabbled, I can say that. I did different things. I would sketch and draw fashion, or, you know, however I was feeling that day. So, you know, I probably might draw a cloud with a heart jumping off of it into a pool of pickles or something. I don't know, just depending on how I was feeling that day. And people don't understand that art is a big thing in life in general. You know, like everything that we do, art is related. You know, whether you're singing in the shower, or you're dancing down the street, or, you know, you want to draw a cute little card or something. Like art, it captures us as humans. It keeps us connected to each other in some way. And, you know, that was something that really kept me focused while I was locked up, because they would try to take that away from you. You know, we weren't allowed art supplies unless you was in art school, or you couldn't get, you know, paper or construction paper or whatever mailed to you. And so they really kind of restricted the things that we, you know, could do. But of course, to me, I like to break rules, so I figured out ways to do lots of different things. And people would ask me, like, how did you do that? You have to have a creative mind, honey. You have to think outside the box to do what I do. So once you're on that level, get back at me.
And we're here at the Creative Change Award, so there you go.
I want to also just briefly mention at SRLP we have a prisoner advisory committee, so we have about 70 people who identify as transgender, gender nonconforming, or intersex who are incarcerated here in New York State prisons. And we post their artwork online, and we also have a prisoner advisory committee blog and an annual newsletter, and those have been great tools to share people's artwork and share their experiences before incarceration, their hopes and dreams after incarceration, and the depressing stories about what occurs while they're inside. So we definitely do encourage people to correspond, reach out to our community members who are incarcerated, because they do have all these obstacles, like the prison taking their art supplies, not allowing them to have access to tools to really express themselves. So please definitely do not forget about our community members who are inside.
And too, yes. I think that's important. You made me think of this, CeCe. When I was doing research, when I was doing research for Orange is the New Black, I'm like, I'm a hairstylist. They can like get hair weaves and do their hair in prison. And I'm still amazed by the fact that in women's prisons, women are allowed to, have access to hair weaves and to groom themselves in very feminine ways. But trans women in men's prisons are not.
Yeah, they even consider hair dryers, blow dryers, to be feminine. I wasn't even allowed to get a hair dryer. And it was like, well, I thought that was pretty much universal. Like, I didn't know hair dryers had a sex attached to it. And so it's like they really restrict, and it falls into that gender binary of what belongs to a man and what belongs to a woman. And
it's like deep that the prison mass incarceration is deeply enforcing gender stereotypes and binary gender, deeply, right?
I wasn't allowed to buy females' underwear. I wasn't allowed to buy things like eyeliner, even though it was on the commissary list and you can check it out, but you wouldn't get it. And vice versa for women that were locked up too. They weren't allowed to buy anything that was considered male, like boxers or do-rags or things like that. So, yeah.
You should think about that. That's deep. That's deep to me anyway. Maybe it's not deep to you.
I mean, we're getting to the section where we would need another probably at least 5 hours to go into the atrocities and the ridiculous nature of our prison system and how it does enforce that gender binary. But unfortunately, we are out of time, so we cannot depress you with all of that right now. But I do want to end in saying it's not just these two amazing women up here who are telling their stories. We do have a lot of community members who are trying to tell their stories and share them. They just need an audience. And most of you are connected to the internet. So do a Google search, do the work, because the information is being compiled and it's out there, and it's beyond the two of them. It shouldn't just be the people who are most affected by the violence who are doing all of the work to tell these stories. So that's just a challenge to you all to do the work. And right now I would just say applaud these amazing women for all of their contributions.
Am I on? Oh, keep it going. Keep it. That was, yeah. I didn't have my mic to actually do it. Thank you, you guys. It's so important. That last thing we just heard is that when people are doing the work, if you cannot be an ally and help them and be the advocate, it's impossible. And we see it all the time in our work. When we do social change and social justice work, so often, whether it is the hard work that you guys are doing, whether it's in the reproductive justice space that I work in a lot, when the doctors and the nurses and all of the clinic workers are fighting the battles and defending the rights, where are we who use the services? It's so important that we constantly remain an advocate to give people a break, a breathing room, a space. Because if we want people to be able to tell their own stories, then we have to be able to do that and provide the space for them to do that, to stop and regroup while we keep the messaging going. Because I think one of the things that is so important about what the Opportunity Agenda does is just that, so that there's always time and there's always people reminding people that the story is out there, so that those who are living it can simply live it. I came to the Opportunity Agenda a year ago, and this is a time that is very important for me. I just realized, I just finished a book, and in the course of doing so, I had gone on tour because I couldn't really do any other work except work on the book. And I had done a bunch of fundraisers for Planned Parenthood, and it started out as 6, and it ended up being 41, and I have 10 on the books coming up for a bunch of independent reproductive health centers as well. But what I learned is that in 49 out of 50 states, there was laws that were just curbing reproductive rights everywhere. So Oregon was the only state that was safe, that it hadn't tried to do it. And I was like, I gotta do something about this. What am I gonna do? I really wanna bring activists and artists together to try to bring awareness to this issue in a whole new way. And I was invited by the Opportunity Agenda they do a retreat every year, and it was at Sundance in the summer. And it brought together activists and funders and creatives to talk about the projects they were working on so we could work on each other's projects, help develop each other's projects. I went in with a kernel of an idea. I came out with, after 4 days of intensive bonding, writing, getting to knowing, drinking, writing, writing. I came out with an idea that is fully formed that is launching now and will launch in a profound way on July 15th. Because I was working with incredible people that the Opportunity Agenda had brought together for this thing. We get our information very differently now. Young people, disconnected people, people without a voice. They're not watching Meet the Press. They're not watching CNN, and if they were, they'd still be looking for the plane. Or the cruise ship that has poop on it. I think they're still looking for that too. They're looking at the internet. They're looking to people like Laverne and CeCe and us. They're looking at documentary films. They're looking at grassroots activists. They're looking at YouTube videos. They're passing those things around. They want compelling content that gives them facts, gives them a point of view, and also gives them a place to go to participate in solving the problem. And that is what the Opportunity Agenda is here for, and that's what we want to do, and that's what we need your help for. You guys have been so incredibly generous to come tonight, pay, you came, you bought your ticket, you saw this amazing display. I mean, this is sort of exactly right. We got to present to you the work of these really interesting people, and they got to present to you their work as they want you to know it. So not only does Opportunity Agenda support the work of activists and artists coming together, they create that work. They bring together that work. And if that work isn't happening, and if that work isn't known, we aren't really gonna get the stories out and move hearts and minds. And there aren't very many people that do it. And so often you don't see, it's like the Opportunity Agenda. Wow, I wasn't really sure who they were when I came here. A lot of you came as guests of other people. And that's because sometimes the work is a little bit silent. It's the work of creating the voices that go on TV. It's the voices and the messengers. The Opportunity Agenda isn't really in it so that everybody can scream about the Opportunity Agenda. The Opportunity Agenda is about creating opportunity for people to tell their stories to make change. And so I ask you tonight as you sit here and as people have passed around envelopes to you, I ask you tonight to think about, as Alan so adeptly asked, are you getting the information you need? Are you seeing the change you need? Is the pressure on the leaders to really do that? And we all know the answer is no. But with so many hungry people from the creative community, from the activist community, who just need a space to regroup, to focus, to know each other. That is what the Opportunity Agenda provides. I'm going to tell you one quick story, and then I'm going to let you think about if you can give your time, your money, and what you can do. There was a documentary film that was made a couple years ago out of Canada about the pink washing of breast cancer research, and it was called Pink Ribbons, Inc. And it was a very interesting story just about the commodification of breast cancer. And one of the things that they said in that film that I found so disturbing is that the Race for the Cure was created because women were gathering in marches and talking and organizing. And that was affecting the bottom line of the commodification of change. They wanted to start a movement where women were separated. They were competitive. They were not talking anymore. They were doing it individually. And when those things are happening, that is scary. And what the Opportunity Agenda does is the exact opposite. We want to go back to bringing people together, bringing people from different parts of their activism together. And I know that I have met so many interesting people who have helped me form what I do, given me strength, given me that push, helping me talk about what I need to talk about. I've met people who I want to support. And so I want to just thank you, and I just want to give you a second to think about what that means for you, and if you can give a little bit more tonight, it would be really great. And as you're thinking about that and filling out your forms, just know that we have a little treat in store for you when you are finished. It's mysterious, isn't it? I'll be over here. You'll be filling out things with zeros on them. Okay, then.
Now when I say create, you say change. Create, create. When I say create, you say change. Create, create. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's the 10 Frisk Commandments. Why? So this is just a little kind of introductory. If you're not from New York City, and you might be young, black and brown, and have to deal with stop and frisk, if you follow these 10 steps, you might survive with your life. So follow me, y'all. You might want to write these down. Look, 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 look. I've been stopped and frisked for years. They treat us like we animals. I'm so used to it. I wrote me a manual, a step-by-step booklet, so you can get through your stop and frisk before they cock and spit. Rule number 1, never carry a gun. Even if you got a license, it might be a crisis. See, if you make a move for your waist just to slide, it's still empty every round and they clips to you lifeless. Rule number 2, in fact, make no sudden moves. Don't you know these bad boys use violence to silence? Don't treat you like your highness a king. I done seen bad kids get their wigs cold busted over nothing. Number 3, we never trust no police. These cops will set a brother up, gun him up, then cover up whenever they run amok and come and bust on one of us. It's never justice, cause it's only just us. Number 4, I know y'all heard this before. Always comply and pray to God you survive. Number 5, never talk back when they talk smack. Even if they call you a nigga, man, be the bigger man. 6, then you can run and jet quick, get it. They'll catch you, then beat you so bad you won't forget it. Number 7, this rule is so underrated. Always try to stay in places well lit and populated, cause when streets is watching, police get cautious, so you might survive without getting beat and hauled. And number 8, any weight that you carry's a risk. They catch you with a nick, they'll beat you like you hustling bricks. See, number 9 should have been number 1 to me. Anytime you get stopped, always film the police, cause if you get a whipping, they ain't trying to listen. You'll be sitting in prison if they don't see it with their vision. Number 10, a strong word called the Constitution. Or does it apply then to only white men? Is being black and brown probable cause? Hell no. Then why we getting stopped? Rain, sleet, hail, snow. Follow these rules, you'll have more days to wake up. If not, cops can pull out and shoot the place up. Slugs in his temple, watch this frame shake up. The caretaker did his makeup. When he passed, the cops, they ain't even break up. No cause, they ain't miss a day or get a pay cut. It's only us that can stop, but they say it ain't racist. Gotta go before a popo come and take us. Somebody say stop, stop and frisk. 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank y'all. Give it up for Judy Kang on the violin, Chesney Snow on the beatbox. My name is Jasiri X, y'all. It's been an honor. Thank you, Opportunity Agenda, for giving artists and activists a platform to say the truth. Peace, y'all.
Hey, Bo. Amazing. I just want to quickly thank 3 of our sponsors who we didn't get to thank so much: American Express, Staples, and Dell. Thank you so much for your support. This was such an awesome evening. Thank you, CeCe. Thank you, Laverne. Thank you, Alicia, so much for just being awesome and being advocates and helping us learn a little bit more about where we need to be reshifting and focusing and putting our attention. So thank you. Alan, the steering committee, the Opportunity Agenda, and all of you, thank you so much for coming. It really means the world that you guys understand that the messaging is changing and that the Opportunity Agenda is at the forefront of that change and embracing it and putting it out there. And that's, I think, the most important thing that I take away with my, damn, I'm gonna break this thing. The one thing they don't teach is technology and how to work your iPad, and for the, so you have to come bringing that. But I just want to thank you. You guys have been great. Mingle, get to know people, talk. We're going to be having drinks afterwards. Thank you. What a lovely evening. Thanks, you guys. You're the best.